Early October 2020, one of the most remarkable events of the technology lovers was the launching of iPhone 12.
This is our new iPhone lineup.
The key features that caught attention and discussion around the world were there's no chargers and earphones go together with the iPhone 12. The reason for this decision, according to Apple, was that they advocated for the environment. Due to the fact that a lot of Apple lovers already have the chargers, therefore, they would not include the charger and the earphones stick together with iPhone 12.
So we are removing these items from the iPhone box, which reduces carbon emissions and avoids...
Now, every iPhone will include the more advanced and higher power USB-C to Lightning cable.
The fact is that most of the cables do not fit in the charger of the iPhone 12. What does that mean? You have to buy the additional charger for your iPhone 12 in most of the case. So the story of the environment activists is no longer valid, no matter what fairy tale they are creating, due to the overwhelming interest of the technology lovers. People are still crazily hunting down and loyal for iPhone 12 everywhere in the world. Although a lot of people recognize their trick, that is a typical story of a successful business. However, in politics, the same, whereas the political parties should play the same strategy to win over the love of the citizens. For years, the election of American president caught the attention not only Americans themselves, but every nation and individuals around the world due to their remarkable role in shaping the world. The Americans are proud of their wealth, their freedom, and their influence on other countries and every decision that affect the world as a whole. The American is losing their strength and their influence due to the emergence of China. That's the true fact that no one can deny. In the series, we would divide it into two videos to give us some facts with the deeper analysis to have a better understanding from the perspective of a non-American and on a macro scale. The video would talk first about domestic economy, the most concerned issue of the Trump presidency. Not taking into account of the unpredictable situation of the COVID pandemic worldwide. In a short time of his administration, President Trump had brought about historic achievements due to his pro-growth policies in which push up economic growth and providing greater employment opportunities to the workers across the country, especially blue-collar ones. Since the start of the administration, President Trump has created 7.3 million jobs and the unemployment rate is at 3.5%. Prior to his presidency, the unemployment rate has fallen below 4% only 5 times since 1970, and the weekly jobless claims have hit a nearly 50-year low. In terms of manufacturing jobs, over 500,000 manufacturing jobs have been created since the president was elected, in which 174,000 jobs were created in December 2019 solely. December also marked the 22nd consecutive month that the unemployment rate had been at 4% or below. Due to the economic policies of the President Trump administration, a record low unemployment rate for women, African Americans, Latino Americans, and Asian Americans, in which African American unemployment rate was at 5.9%, the lowest rate on record. Hispanic American unemployment rate remained at the near record low at 4.2%. The Asian American unemployment rate was at 2.5%, near the historic low. The adult women's unemployment rate hit 3.2%, the lowest since 1953. For 22 consecutive months, wage growth has been near or above 3%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average hit record highs over 100 times under President Trump. Under President Trump, 7 million people have come up food stamps. Job openings outnumber the unemployed for the first time on record. Consumer confidence has risen up significantly under President Trump administration, recently reaching an 18-year high. Small business optimism jumped to a record high under President Trump, according to a survey by the National Federation of the Independent Business, in which its index broke a 35-year record in August. Under President Trump administration, Congress passed historic tax cuts and relief for hardworking Americans. The Tax Cuts and the Jobs Act is the first major tax reform signed in 30 years. As a result of the tax cuts, nearly 9,000 opportunity zones were created in all 50 states, D.C., and the 5 territories, provided more than $5.5 trillion in gross tax cuts, nearly 60% of which will go to families, increased the exemption for the death tax to help save family farms and small business. Since taking office, President Trump's deregulation efforts have achieved $33 billion in regulatory savings. In 2018, these efforts alone delivered $22 billion in benefits to American families and business owners. President Trump has signed 16 Congressional Review Act resolutions into law, eliminating burdensome Obama-era rules and regulations. President Trump announced the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement of the U.S., which, according to him, would have harmed Americans' economy and cost American workers millions of jobs.
We're going to cancel the Paris Climate Agreement.
President Trump had declared official statement over this issue. "I'm willing to immediately work with the Democratic leaders to either negotiate our way back into Paris under the terms that are fair to the United States and its workers, or to negotiate a new deal that protects our country and its taxpayers." This decision has raised up argument worldwide. Then we would briefly have a look through the Paris Climate Agreement to have a much better understanding of the deal and see how true is the president's decision of withdrawing. The key points of the agreement that: first, the Paris Agreement is to strengthen the global response to the threat of the climate change by keeping the global temperature rise this century well below 2 degrees Celsius, above pre-industrial levels, and to pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase even further to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Additionally, the agreement aims to strengthen the ability of the countries to deal with the impacts of the climate change. Second, financial flows, a new technology framework, and an enhanced capacity building framework will be put in place. To put it simply, developed countries responsible for supporting finance for developing countries. The agreement also provides for enhanced transparency of the action and support through a more robust transparency framework. The third point to be addressed is 55% of the global emission account for China, America, India, Brazil, Russia, and Japan. The most important and the key point that's normally be ignored is the countries could freely trade up the emissions rate. Take into consideration of the last two key points. President Trump absolutely has reasonable point in withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement. He stated, "The fact that the Paris deal hamstrings the U.S. while empowering some of the world's top polluting countries should dispel any doubt at the real reason why foreign lobbyists wish to keep our magnificent country tied up and bound down by this agreement. It's to give their country as an economic act over the U.S. That's not going to happen while I'm a president." As for total tax cuts as one of the main points of his campaign running for the next term for the White House, this absolutely worked to reboot the economic boom of America through and after the COVID pandemic. There is a debate of the opponent to apply tax for affiliates whose income over $200,000 per year. This would not work for the current situation of America, in which big corporations play the key role in giving jobs and push up the economics on a macro scale. Individuals would not be motivated to get real high income due to the tax applied. Big corporations would be demotivated in boosting up the economy, or they would find a way to avoid or deduct the tax as much as possible. For instance, move the business or factory abroad to a country of more favorable tax. The Trump administration has successfully improved trading practices and negotiation to be freer, fairer with global allies. President Trump has delivered a modern and rebalanced trade deal, which is the USMCA, stands for United States, Mexico, Canada Agreement. This deal is spurring the economic growth, created 176,000 jobs, added $68.2 billion to the U.S. economy and raised wages to replace the outdated NAFTA. President Trump negotiated a new United States-Japan trade deal with Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Japan is one of the U.S. strongest economic partners, and this deal builds on that partnership. This deal favors the American farmers, ranchers, workers, and businesses greatly. The administration revised the U.S.-Korean Free Trade Agreement to make it more beneficial to American workers. The President and EU President agreed to a new trade deal that strengthens and reforms the allies' trade relationship. The agreement states, works toward zero tariffs, zero non-tariff barriers, zero subsidies on non-automotive industrial goods, make it easier for the EU to purchase liquefied gas, reduce trade and bureaucratic obstacles between the US and the EU, addresses unfair trade practices. President Trump has expanded market access for American agricultural producers. Argentina has opened to American pork and beef, Brazil to American beef, Japan to lamb and Idaho chicken potatoes, South Korea to American poultry, and more. The administration authorized $12 billion to aid farmers affected by unfair retaliatory tariffs. The Trump administration has begun the process to expand the sales of E15, a gasoline containing 15% ethanol, to year-round. One of the president's first actions after taking office was withdrawing the U.S. from the terrible Trans-Pacific Partnership, which incentivizes outsourcing. President Trump is holding China accountable for its unfair trade practices, such as intellectual property rights, by imposing tariffs on the $250 billion in Chinese goods. American steel and aluminum jobs are getting back on track following President Trump's tariffs to protect domestic industries. President Donald Trump has gained back American strength and influence roles on the world matters, restoring American leadership abroad. The president's leadership in the NATO has encouraged members to increase their defense spending and realign the alliance's priorities. In 2017 alone, there was an increase of more than 4.8% in defense spending among NATO allies. President Trump convinced the alliance to strengthen the counter-terrorism activities, and NATO formally joined the coalition to defeat ISIS. As a result, under the leadership of America, joined with allies, the number one terrorist leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, was taken out. This daring operation was launched at President Trump's direction, successfully leading to the death of the Baghdadi with no American force lost. No American personnel were lost in the operation, while 5 other enemy combatants were killed in the compounds, and the additional enemies were killed in the vicinity. The U.S. has successfully decimated ISIS. President Trump ordered to kill the head of Iran's elite Kurd force and an evil, ruthless, deadly terrorist. President Trump has named Jerusalem Israel's capital city and moved the U.S. embassy. President Trump has held a historic summit with Chairman Kim Jong-un, bringing beginnings of peace and denuclearization to the Korean Peninsula. Thanks to the president's actions, North Korea has harned nuclear and missile tests. President Trump has also taken tough action to combat Russia's malign activities, including Russia's effort to undermine U.S. elections. The administration has imposed sanctions on more than 200 individuals and entities related to Russia's destabilization activities. The Trump administration has enhanced support for Ukraine defense by stepping up sales of weapons to its military. President Trump withdrew the U.S. from the Iran nuclear agreement and instituted the toughest sanctions in history to drive the regime's oil exports to zero. In June 2019, President Trump signed an executive order that authorized expanded sanctions against Iran. The Trump administration imposed hard-hitting sanctions against Iran National Bank. Trump administration's diplomacy with Sudan is rare, making a regional menace into a responsible partner. Sudan, under 30 years' reign of dictator Omar al-Bashir, has given Al-Qaeda refuse at its planned terrorist attacks like the 1998 U.S. embassy bombings in Kenya and Tanzania. The U.S. designated the country a state sponsor of terrorism in 1993. Washington recently negotiated a deal with Khartoum to create a victims' compensation fund for the embassy bombings in exchange for ending the terror designation. It could also lead to normalized ties with Israel, which Sudan regularly antagonized in the past. As the president wrote on Twitter recently, new government of Sudan, which is making great progress, agreed to pay $335 million to U.S. terror victims and families. One deposited, "I will lead Sudan from the state-sponsored of terrorism list. At long last, trusted for American people and big step for Sudan."